Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Approach Reporting Like Never Before. This is the ultimate guide to report types. My name is Evan Ponter. You can find me on Twitter at RealEvanPonter. I'm a consultant for Landvale Consulting, and my Trailblazer ID is on the screen there. And today I want to cover what should be a really simple concept of how should you approach reporting in your Salesforce organization. And it came up with this idea that you really only need one custom report type per object. So every time you're going to build a report that references account records and you want accounts to be the details in your report, you're going to use your one custom report type for accounts. The same thing for contacts. If you want the details in your report to be contact records, you're going to build one custom report type for those contact records. Same thing for opportunities. And this concept can be applied to any other object that you have in your Salesforce org, whether it's standard or a custom object you've built, or it came with an installed package. So a lot of my examples today are going to be showing you how to do this with the opportunity object, but just keep it in the back of your mind. You can apply this concept to any object in Salesforce. And the reason I came up with this was I started working as a full-time Salesforce admin back in 2015, and it was my first full-time job. I was really excited to be working with Salesforce all of the time, 100%. And I quickly fell into a role where I was responsible for building reports for the entire organization. So I was getting pummeled with report requests left and right. Can you build me a report to do this? Can you fix a report that should be showing this? Can you combine all the fields from these two report types into one? I just want to get all of my data in one spot. So I was trying to help out as much as I could, and I was jumping in, trying to figure out how to build reports for people, and I came across this screen right away. This is the very first thing that you are looking at when you go to create a new report. You have to choose the report type. And in my opinion, there's way too many options on this screen. If somebody's asking me for an opportunities report and I type in the word opportunities when I'm choosing the report type, there are over 40 options. I took this screenshot in a very vanilla sandbox org that I had set up that had no installed packages, no custom objects. This is just the out-of-the-box setup. And there are over 40 options when you want to report for the opportunities object. So, some of them come with Salesforce out of the box. Like I said, some of them come with a managed package. You might have gotten frustrated with both of those options and created your own custom report types. And at that point, you run into this with or without concept. And just what does it all mean? You need to start helping your users get data out of Salesforce. You just need to get past this report type question. So what do you do when you have too many options? You just pick one. You cross your fingers, hope for the best, and hopefully it's going to give you the data you need. But you'll quickly find after you set up that report with that custom report type you selected, and you get all of your groupings just right, you have all the columns in, you have all the filters applied, and you click run and show that report to your users, they get frustrated because, hey, the same record is showing up multiple times. Or how can I include fields from this other object? I might have done a really good job of giving them data from two objects, but now they want data from a third object. Or worse yet, they tell you they're not seeing all of the records they wanted to see. Now, especially on this last point, I want to break down the 5 distinct reasons why you're not seeing the data you want to see in your report. So let's cover all 5 in some detail here. Filters, 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 filters. I can't say it enough times. The reason your report is not showing you the data you want it to show you is because it's being filtered out. There are 5 kinds of filters to be on the lookout for. And the good news is filters 2 through 5 up here, your role hierarchy, your ownership filters, any time frames being applied, or all of your field filters, those can be changed at any point in your report building process. But the very first filter I have listed here is the report type. And the report type is a filter. It's filtering your data. As soon as you select that report type and start building a report, you've already applied a filter. And what's not so flexible about the way it's set up currently in Salesforce is you cannot change your report type after you've started building a report. And when I realized this, when I was working that first job, getting pummeled with requests, I decided, hey, I really need to understand how the report type is affecting my results, because that can't be changed later on. So if we can make sure to get our report type right before we start building our report, then the entire process becomes way easier to manage, because you can always make any of the other adjustments you need to make. So I set out on this exploration of custom report types. How do they work? And I started doing some testing and found that if you create a custom report type and you choose an object like accounts to be your primary object, you can start working your way down your data architecture every time you bring in some child objects. So accounts here is our primary object highlighted in red. And from that, we can say, I want to also include the contacts object. And from there, you can say also include contracts. And from there, you can also say include opportunities. There's a 4 object limit when you're using this approach. There's not a way to get 5 objects in a hierarchy like this when you're building a custom report type and you're enforcing object relationships. Furthermore, what are we really getting with a report based on this kind of report type? Even though we've selected accounts as our primary object, this really isn't an accounts report anymore. Every row in the report results is going to show a filtered list of records for whatever object is at the bottom of the hierarchy you've specified. So in this case, opportunities is the object at the bottom of the hierarchy that we've specified here. And we're only going to see an opportunity record if it's related to a contract, and that contract is related to a contact, and that contact is related to an account. If any one of those lookup fields are blank along the way, making their way back to the primary object, that record is filtered out of the report results. That row disappears from the report results. And it doesn't matter if it's a blank lookup field on the opportunity or a blank lookup field on the contact. Anything that's blank along this path is going to filter out that data. This report type really only handles a very specific reporting scenario. It's great if you only care about the opportunities that specify a contract, that specify a contact, that specify an account. But lots of times you're going to want to include those records even if they have blank lookup fields. Or furthermore, you're going to want to include fields from these 4 objects and more, right? There's always people asking for more. And they want to pull in fields from the related campaign, or maybe some information about the price book related to that contract. Or they want some custom fields about the person who created that contact. Or they want to know some custom information about the account owner. And this method of building custom report types stops there with just the 4 fields that you can enforce. You're not able to easily include reference fields from these other objects highlighted in red here. At this point, I decided, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. How can I create some more flexibility in my report types so that I'm not constantly banging my head against the wall, trying to get the right 4 object hierarchies in place that have all these limitations? They're highly specific to certain scenarios, and I just need to have a better framework in place so that I can use custom report types in multiple scenarios. And what I came up with was this idea of starting from the bottom. So like our Canadian rapper friend would say, start from the bottom, and you can actually work your way up in order to get here, wherever here is for you. So you can create these custom report types that actually start with the object at the bottom of your hierarchy, depending on your data architecture hierarchy. And you can easily include fields from that same hierarchy we defined before. And with a few other clicks, we can pull in information from campaigns, from price books, from contact creators, literally any lookup field or master detail field that exists on any object starting from our primary object and moving upwards can be included in a custom report type. So notice here the biggest difference is opportunities is now the primary object, and we can reference fields from anything from its parent records, from its grandparent records, great-grandparent records, or even great-great-grandparent records, traversing any of these relationships along the way. What I like to call this is a deluxe report type. This is that concept that you can apply to any object in your Salesforce org. You just specify the object you want to show up as rows in your report results when you look at the detailed tabular view of that report, and then you edit the custom report type to bring in all of the reference fields that you need to reference. The best thing about deluxe report types is they are so easy to create. There's just 3 simple steps. The first thing we do when we set up our custom report type is choose a primary object. Again, this is going to be the object that has its records represented by rows in your report results when you look at the tabular view. On the second page, where you can specify object relationships, you don't want to define any. If you leave your primary object as the only object enforced on the object relationships page, it actually lets you have a ton of flexibility as far as what you can add to it. All of the magic actually happens on this third step, which I highly recommend should be the third step of the build a custom report type wizard. But here's where we can edit the layout and add fields from related objects. So let's jump into our Salesforce org and show you just how easy this is. Everything I'm showing you today works in Classic, it works in Lightning, it works on any edition of Salesforce you have, professional all the way up through unlimited. If you have Salesforce, you can do this. There are no limitations. There's nothing extra you need to buy. All you need to be able to do is access the report types section in the setup menu and have the ability to create and manage custom report types. So I'm in my Lightning enabled org here, and I'm going to create a new custom report type. Again, from the menu, it's under feature settings, analytics, reports and dashboards, and then report types, or you can simply type in report types in the search bar. And I'm going to choose an object to be my primary object. I'm going to go with opportunities. And I like to call it my deluxe report types, the name of the object, followed by deluxe in parentheses. And what this does, it gives us a naming convention that can help distinguish this report type from all of the other noise in our org. And I'll also show you a few other tips for cleaning up some of that clutter so that we can really highlight people to use these deluxe report types. In the description, I like to list every row represents an opportunity record in this case. Make it very clear to your users which object is going to have its records represented by rows in this kind of report using this report type. Followed after that in the description, I also list all of the fields from other objects that are being included. So if I'm including fields from the contract and the contact and account, I list out all those objects here. And this will come in handy a little bit later as we learn how to continue to manage these custom report types after we're adding other fields to other objects. So I'll show you that a little bit later. You're going to want to put this report type in a category, and you want to mark it as deployed. Marking it as deployed allows you and your users to actually use this report type. Otherwise, only administrators will be able to access it. On the second page, this is actually the hardest step. You want to do nothing here. You're going to be highly tempted to start relating other objects because that's probably what you're used to doing. That's what Salesforce kind of encourages you to do on this page is, hey, if you want fields from other objects, why don't you go ahead and relate them? We're not going to do that. Resist the urge and just click save on this page. We just want the opportunity, our primary object, to be specified in the object relationships. And then what I highly argue should be step 3 is editing the custom report type layout. Because at this point, you've clicked save, you've created your custom report type, but you're not quite done yet. If you scroll to the bottom and click on this edit layout button, this lets you add other fields to your report type layout from other objects. There's a lot to get into on this screen, so I'll go step by step here. So when you first open it up, you're going to have all of the fields from your primary object any objects that are enforced in your object relationships, they will already be included in the layout under this, section for that object's name, which is great. If you ever add any new fields to your primary object, in this case, opportunities, they will show up in the panel over here on the right as you scroll through. They'll be highlighted so you know they're not part of layout yet, and you can just drag them over. Now, just above that, there's this add fields related via lookup hyperlink. And that should probably be 10 times bigger and have fireworks around it, because this is where all of the magic happens. When you click on that, this is showing you all of the relationships on your primary object. And you can use this as a jumping point to leapfrog, to jump from the primary object to some other parent object. So we can traverse this contract relationship. Again, it's any lookup field or master detail field that exists. We can traverse it. So if we traverse that contract relationship, we can select any field from that contract object. So let's say I want to know the billing city, and I want to know the name of the contract, and I want to know the status. I can select those fields, click OK, and now they're part of my custom report type layout. They show up with this little magnifying glass, this little lookup icon that tells you, hey, these fields are referenced from some other object that's not enforced in the custom report type, in the object relationships. And what I like to do is stay very organized as I'm editing these custom report type layouts. So I'll create a new section every time I'm referencing fields from a new object. So this is going to be my contracts section. And you can actually hold the control key for Windows or command for Mac and select multiple fields. Once they're all highlighted, you can drag all of them at the same time down into your new section. And the fun doesn't stop there. So far we've traversed one relationship. Let's show you how you can keep going through relationships. If you watch the path up here, I started on opportunities. I've traversed this contract relationship, but from here I can traverse any of the relationships on the contract object to find fields from another parent object, which would be grandparent from the opportunity, but parent to this contract object. So if I start here, I can go up to the contract and traverse this customer signed by relationship field. Now I'm looking at all the fields on the contact object. So this is just the standard Salesforce contacts. I can pull in the first name, the last name. Maybe I want to know the mobile number for that person and their title. I've selected all those fields. Again, they show up with that little magnifying glass. I'm going to create a new section for contacts. I'm going to select all of those fields at the same time, holding the control or command key, and I can drag them down to keep everything nice and organized. Now you can go crazy with this. So you are allowed to include up to 1,000 fields into your custom report type layout, and they can reference up to 60 unique objects. So you can really spiderweb your way around traversing all these different relationships to grab some information, maybe from the opportunities, contracts, customers, accounts, account owner. I've just traversed 4 relationships, so now I'm including fields from 5 objects in a linear hierarchy, fields from the opportunity and everything along the way, all the way up to account owner. And once I get here, I can choose any field from the user object. So maybe I want to know the first name of this user, their last name, and who their manager is. Now, I would highly encourage you to not use this select all link once you get to an object. With that 1,000 field limitation on custom report types, you will burn up those 1,000 fields very quickly if you click select all on a few objects. So instead of that, take this opportunity to tailor the experience and only select fields that you need in this custom report type. Only select fields that your organization is actually using. Only select fields that actually have relevant, reliable data in them. You don't need some of these fields cluttering up your report type layout, taking up a seat in your 1,000 seat allocation if you're not using them. These SU access and SU org admin expiration dates, they are standard fields in every Salesforce org. I have no idea what they do, but they definitely don't need to be hogging up seats in my custom report type layout. So tailor the experience and you will have an easier time rolling this out and staying within that 1,000 field limitation. So I'm going to create a section for this. This is going to be account owners. I'm going to drag those fields down, show you a couple other cool things that you can do right on this page. So by default, these fields have some display names on them, and you can actually edit the display name on these fields within your custom report type layout. If you select any of these fields and either double click on it or click on this edit properties button, it's at the top and at the bottom, you'll see two options here. The first one is the display as field. And by default, it's going to show you sort of a breadcrumbs navigation style naming convention of what that field's name is, and also letting you know how you got to that field from your primary object. So this one starts on opportunities, goes through contracts, the customer who signed it, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually, we're just getting the last name of the account owner. So what we can do here is we can shorten up that name and just say, hey, I know this, how we got to this field. I really just want to call it account owner last name. That little tip right there will save you so much when you're grouping your report results by a field that's accessed through, 4 or 5 levels away. You don't want that really long default name in there. You can shorten that up and make those grouping names much cleaner and easier to read. The second option you have on this page is this checked by default checkbox. And what that allows you to do is set up a template for any new reports that are built using this custom report type. If you have these, the fields that you have checked by default will show up as columns automatically in any new report that's created using this report type. So it's a great way to jumpstart your users and give them some of the basic columns they're hoping to see anyways, instead of having to start with a blank slate. On the inverse, if you'd rather start with a blank slate, just know you can come into your custom report types and uncheck all of these fields and really just give your users a blank slate to start with so they can add only the fields they want to see. If you're doing a lot of editing of the properties on your fields all at the same time, you can select multiple, again, holding the control key or command on Mac. You can even use the shift key to do this and select multiple fields at the same time. Click on edit properties, and now you can change all those display names at the same time, shortening these up to make sense and be nice and clean. You can check off which ones you want to be included as columns by default. Just a great way to manage these custom report types and really make them shine by putting some of this little extra polish here. I will say these display as values, they are not changing the labels of your custom fields. They're not changing the API names. This is a third totally independent attribute, and it just changes how this field displays in this custom report type. So I've had some use cases where 2 different teams have completely different internal names for the same field. And you can solve that by setting up a custom report type, one for each team, and name their specific fields in a way that makes sense to them. And on the other custom report type, name them in a way that makes sense to the other team. So that's another great way you can take advantage of this feature. The last thing I'll highlight on this edit the custom report type layout page is on every report, there's a time frame option, and it uses a default field. You'll probably notice if you create an opportunities report, the close date or maybe the created date is set up as the default field. That is determined by the date field that is furthest to the top of your custom report type layout. So in this case, the very first date field we see here is close date. And that's going to be used in our time frame filter by default. If you want to put some other date field or date time field towards the top of your custom report type, you can control and make sure that that field is used as your default time frame option. So this is our custom report type, nice and edited, tailored for our experience, has all the fields we need from other objects. And I'm going to go back to the report types page here to show you a little bit about some techniques I've used to help manage these deluxe report types. Since we're using a naming convention, we can expect that all of our deluxe report types have the word deluxe in the name. And using that information, we can create a list view of our custom report types and really just focus our attention on maintaining our deluxe report types. And this is where that description will come up that I explained earlier. First of all, we'll know exactly what is going to show up in the details for a report using this report type. And since we've included the names of all the objects that we're referencing in our report type description, on this page, we can hit Control F or Command F on a Mac. And so let's say that we added a new account field in our org. If we search for the name account, now we know every deluxe custom report type that references fields from the account object. So this is a way that I've used to say, hey, if I made a new account field, I might want to add it to this report type, and this report type. And that is way easier to manage than just trying to guess and check or just, coming across it whenever you're creating your report and getting frustrated. Every time I create a new field, I come to this page, check where it needs to be added, and add the field that way. Now, we have our custom report type. We know a little bit about how to manage when we add new fields, but we still have this problem where there's way too many options when you're selecting a custom or any report type in your org. So this is the only part of the presentation where you do have to switch to Classic in order to make the configuration changes. But once you switch back into Lightning, all of your changes will take effect. So in Classic, when you are selecting a custom report type, you have this option at the very top. This is not in the setup menu at all. This is actually, you've clicked on the reports tab, you've clicked new report, and you're choosing a custom report type. You have this option at the top to select report types to hide. If you check that off, that changes your display to show you an X or a check mark next to all of the report types in your org. And what you can do here is you can really simplify the menu. You can hide all of the report types that you don't want your users to use anymore. And if you ever change your mind, you can always come back to the screen, check off this box, and unhide something. So change the X back to a check mark, and you can bring something back. But you can really whittle down this list to the point where if you type in the word opportunities, you can give people two choices. Do you want that standard out of the box opportunities report type that we know always has all the fields on the opportunity object included, which is great if you're an admin and you're testing your new fields and you don't want to edit your deluxe report type to include them, but you just need to check the value really quickly. I keep that standard report type around. Otherwise, the only other report type I want people using when they want opportunity records is the opportunities deluxe report type. And if people can upgrade to deluxe for free, why not? So this naming convention helps to encourage people to use this deluxe report type so that we can always have the power to edit what fields show up and add new fields if we need to with that tailored experience. So the only other thing that people need to know when they are choosing a report type is what word do they type into this screen. And for that, I've been using this little riddle. Every row represents what kind of record. So as you are taking on these report requests and people want to start learning how to do it themselves, they really just need to know what is the primary object that they should be selecting when they're choosing a report type. And this riddle can help. So if you have somebody coming to you asking, hey, I want to see all of our deals that closed last month, You can sort of walk them through the translation a little bit. Okay, where in Salesforce do we store our deal records? What do you want to show up as rows in this deals report? And they might come to that conclusion, oh yeah, every row represents an opportunity record so that I can sum up all those opportunity amounts. Beautiful. When they go to create the report, they type in the word opportunities, and they have those two options. Do they just want the fields from the opportunities, or do they want this opportunities deluxe report type? And why not? That sounds great. Let's go with deluxe, and let's get started building our report. No longer will people have to fumble through choosing different report types, getting started, and hitting that wall where you realize, oh, I can't believe I chose the wrong report type, and now I need to go all the way back to the beginning and start over again. You'll be able to tailor this experience so that it just has relevant fields. People will save so much time by being able to confidently choose the right report type and get started building the report the first time without any other restarts or frustrations. So how does that sound as a better way to approach reporting in Salesforce? So I have a few resources here. This can all be available after the presentation. You can send me an email. This will be posted. I'll leave it up here if you want to take a screenshot or a picture of this. But every journey to success would not even start without Trailhead. I have linked the reports and dashboards Trailhead module. Check that out if you're brand new and want to get a little better feel for how to build some reports and dashboards. The second one here is reportforce.blog, which is authored by yours truly and Aaron Creer. There's a series of blog posts about the ultimate guide to report types that you can read that goes into great detail about a lot of the concepts I covered today, and even takes it a step further to some more advanced concepts once you're ready to tackle some of that. So definitely check out that guide. It's 4 posts right now, but there will be a 5th one coming soon. The other blog I highly recommend is Brent Downey's Admin Hero, and he did an article about the hidden custom report type functionality, where he goes into great detail about all of the wonderful things you can do on that edit your custom report type layout screen. So definitely check that out. If you're more into videos, I have 2 linked here. This ultimate guide to report types is a recording of this presentation from Dreamforce in 2018. So you can always watch that. And I have a quick video that shows you how to hide your report types in your organization. This is the best 4-minute video if you really just want to clean up your interface and experience dealing with report types. And if all of that's not good enough, I am a consultant for Landvale Consulting. You can reach out to us at landvaleconsulting.com. If you have any trouble getting set up with your Deluxe report types or want help with Salesforce reporting in general, we're more than happy to take a look and see if we can do some services for you. Thank you so much. It's been a blast doing London's Calling. I know it's been a little bit more virtual this year, but hopefully this is useful content. Please reach out with any questions. I'm on Twitter there. You can tweet at me. You can find me on the Trailblazer community, or you can visit landvaleconsulting.com to get in touch with me that way. Thank you so much.
Coacto are a Salesforce implementation company with over 18 years experience working with Salesforce. With our expertise in Salesforce, supply chain and ERP projects, we're here to support customers and partners in all stages of their implementation. We have a track record of success helping organizations to realize their Salesforce vision. Coact with us to make Salesforce work for you or your customers. Coacto, we realize your Salesforce vision.